Hey guys, welcome back to Frosted Talks, the third episode, and we're still on more combat topics. Here we're shifting away from a current relevant thing in the MK fandom, I guess, and moving just to something random. And again, this series um, is an exclusive to Mortal Kombat, but I'm still figuring out the plans. Like, do I do this every Monday? What do I do it on? So yeah, it's sort of a weekly podcast, I guess, is the idea. Primarily MK like my channel, but again, I'm not willing to restrict myself by anything. So yeah, don't take my word for it there. But so I was thinking, hey, what do I want to do a video on? Because it's MK, so it's a pretty dead franchise. There's not really much going on to talk about after the 30th anniversary. There wasn't much to talk about the 30th anniversary. So for characters, I want to talk about characters. Now, like a few months ago, probably like start of this year, I was doing like little PowerPoint presentations that I'd commentate over. Instead of just a background, which was a lot more effort, but it's just a better overall thing. But since it's just me talking, it doesn't really matter. But I was contemplating making this topic like a video like that. But I don't know. I'm feeling it, and here's like something I want to do is like a series, and I say in the past tense, but there's no reason why I can't just go back to it. But I just want to talk about Drahmin, because he's one of my favorite characters. I don't have any specific favorites except like maybe Li Mei. Li Mei might be my very favorite character. Maybe that's what I should talk about. I don't know. But I've been in a Drahmin mood lately, you know. Like at times there'll be certain characters I'm more into than others. I like most characters though. It's basically just Kano, who I don't like at all. Besides that, there's Koto and Eren, who I usually dislike, but I still think they can be okay sometimes. But yeah, besides that, I like pretty much everyone, at least on a conceptual basis. And I am a big advocate for like 3D era characters. I think that it's the best era for new concepts, both characters, locations, gameplay, story, everything. I think it peaked in every category in that era. And Drahmin is no exception, and I find it absurd how Drahmin is not more popular. I don't know why it is. I don't know why Ed Boon thinks he's the worst character. Like, we all know Ed Boon's least favorite character is Su Hao. But he also doesn't like Drahmin either. Like, he said it's Su Hao and Drahmin. And man, I can't get it. I can't even get it, because even if you're looking at it from like a superficial design standpoint, Drahmin is fucking dope. The Oni are so cool, and like we got this like gruesome little backstory thing. One of my favorite things MK's done is this, and I chose this as my background instead of just image drawing, because you got a lot of information here, and I don't think many people know about this stuff. I think Drahmin's like a more known 3D era character. I think maybe because he's got his lore, I guess, is just a bit more known, or at least he's not hated on much, and I see less misconceptions about Drahmin. I think he's a pretty easy to understand character, and that's probably a good thing, frankly. This is just how Drahmin is the perfect Mortal Kombat character. I think he ticks every single box for my main character, and this is a point I made in my tier list video with CDR, well, one of them, whichever episode, talk about Drahmin. And I do think he is like legitimately the best example of a perfect MK character. Because firstly, as a species, you know what he represents the Oni from the Netherrealm, which is really cool, and it's a very unique species with its own history and lore and stuff. and he looks very unique as a member of that species. So that's one thing. And then his design, he has distinct features, even in his default costume, where he is basically just wearing pants, and that's it. But because of his species, he is mostly nude to show off like his disfigured state, and show off what an Oni really looks like, which is so cool. And you know how like motherfuckers will like try and justify like nudity and like the female characters, like them dressing completely. Like this is an example of a character where it makes sense if they aren't wearing much, because it's not sexualized. It's being done for something other than, oh my god, look at hot body, and that's cool. Then that's justified. Then you've got a cool design, and it doesn't look stupid. You know, Meat does it too. Armageddon Meat actually does reuse Drahmin's torso, but it's covered in a nice blood texture, and it's a more reddish colour, which is cool. And it's a very subtle way of doing that, and it fits well. Meat stands out really well too in Armageddon, frankly. I think Armageddon really makes Meat his own character, but that is besides the point. This is about Drahmin. But then, like on top of that, you have his mask, and it's so iconic. It is so distinct that even most casuals will be able to recognize the mask. And then you've got the Iron Club, his distinct iconic weapon. Again, another unique aspect, and it's something that you need of a character. You need a distinct cosmetic and then a weapon, and then also representing a unique species is always a good thing. So yeah. And then we haven't even got to his lore, or his gameplay. His gameplay, I think Deadly Alliance Drahmin, except for like the duo character of Noob Smoke and Deception, is between that and Deadly Alliance Drahmin. I guess you could argue Ferritor and MKX too. But the duo dynamic in Ferritor feels a lot more superficial. It doesn't seem to mean much. Because, yeah, one's just a child, so you're basically just playing as a big man who happens to have a child on his back. Not that that's bad or anything, I just don't think it's as standout as Noob Smoke, where you are literally swapping between two characters. And Drahmin in Deadly Alliance, who doesn't have any combo strings. He just hits hard, there's a lot of damage, and there's a lot of strategy to him. And it's really clever, and there's a lot of conflict behind it, and this might be a reason for some popularity. But I also don't think people even know about his moveset. I didn't until I did my Deadly Alliance Conquest playthrough, and I got to Drahmin, and I was really surprised by his moveset. It was very interesting. I had played him in Armageddon before. In Armageddon, he's got a more standard moveset, which is still fine. His moveset's really good in both games, even if it's a complete rework from Armageddon. But that's done to fit the gameplay more. And yeah, it's still good. But yeah, it's so clever because he started using weapons, and the Iron Club stays on his hand at all times. The idea was that it was encased on his arm and he couldn't remove it. At least that's what it seemed to be, because even though he still has the weapon style, he's using his Iron Club all the time. But there were subtle differences between each three of his styles, even if they were just basic strikes. There was some unique stuff. And each fit his personality. You had Oni, Netherrealm, and Iron Club. Simple names, but they make sense for the character, and they are completely fictional. But there was a lot of depth to them. Like, he has two styles where he removes his mask, whereas the one where he's got the mask on, he is a lot more, well, his stance, he's a lot calmer, he seems more focused, and that shows through his attacks. Whereas he seems a lot more reckless in his other strikes, because the mask is what calms him down, and also seems to make him more intelligent. With I believe it was implied somewhere that being an Oni, you are just naturally less intelligent. But with Drahmin, he has the mask, and the mask, the face of Kun Lo, is what it is called. I believe it says it here. Yeah, the face of Kun Lo. You see it on the bottom paragraph. We don't know why it's named that, but I'll get to that in a minute. but it's a reason for a lot of variety to him, because like that's something very interesting where you can have two sides of him really, and that's really cool, and again, it helps expand on the irony, and yeah, this is where it comes from. Now that I'm reading over it, because it's on focus with his murderous insanity, drawing his monstrously fierce opponent is when he dons his artifact mask, the face of Kunlo, that he can center his power into a precise, lethal fighting style that has made him into the legendary tormentor, and that is the Neverrealm style, or the only style. I often forget. I think it's the Neverrealm style, but that's really cool. And apologies for like fumbling on my words there. It's quite small what I'm reading here, the text on my screen. But yeah, what an awesome bit of detail here. And it's all covered in this little, I think it's even in the concept art gallery, It's not like a part of a bio, it's something added on. And it has a lot. It has his backstory and stuff, where he was a mortal warlord. And it says here that abysmal past for to redesign of a form to an only demon speed and fame throughout the empires of the outworld. So yeah, they mention outworld. They don't like explicitly state that that as a mortal warlord he was from outworld. But when they clarify that he was banished to Neverrealm and it sends this legend throughout outworld, that is the implication. We know what realm he was originally from, and we know a bit about him. There is still the mystery though, and that's an important factor. I think Drahmin and Onaga best represent it. Drahmin more so, because I think Onaga does miss out pretty important like a lot of important info is missed out from him, and it'd be fine if it was clarified in like a later game. I think Deception on its own for him, it's totally fine, but unfortunately we haven't seen him like since Armageddon. So again, I digress. But yeah, John, you have this mystery, but you have enough to go off of. You know the face of Kunlo, that might have been his name as a mortal man. You know that he used to be a warlord, presumably from Outworld. You can piece these little details together and make up your own reasonable headcanons that fit in with the lore, and then you can like think of what he was doing as a mortal, and you can like give him this backstory and potentially some character connections from characters of the past, like Shao Kahn, who, I might as well mention this now, in the MK11 crypt, there is Drahmin's mask, because they have this weird lore room, and it basically just mentions like a bunch of random stuff. One of them like connects like Sundo for some reason. I don't know why it exists. Like some of it's interesting, but it's completely irrelevant, and a lot of it's just made up BS that like doesn't actually mean anything because we have no further context. Like they establish a bunch of species and stuff. But the one thing that already exists that is there is Drahmin's mask, which is very interesting, and I think it's there because Drahmin's mask again is like very iconic. So it makes sense that they keep bringing it over. And yeah, like they explain it like when Drahmin returned to our world from the Neverrealm, Shao Kahn killed him, which doesn't make sense at all. However, the idea of him having a connection with Shao Kahn, potentially being a rival to him as a warlord back in the day. Also, there's some vagueness as to how he was banished. Was he killed, or was there literally something that occurred that physically banished him without him even having to die for his soul to obviously descend into the Neverrealm? It's interesting. It's very interesting. And there's a lot you can take there, but it's not vague enough that you have nothing to go off of. You have enough here to piece together something, and that's really cool. Especially as a writer, it makes him one of the most fun characters to write, because personality-wise, we do get like a good bit of personality from him. Firstly, we know like his like how he acts through like the lore about the face of Kunlo and stuff like that in daily lives. of like his conquests. But the section we get to see him speak, we get to see him in a story cutscene, and we get to see him in a side quest, and he's very fun. He's like this. I don't know how to describe it, but he's quite intense, but he sounds a bit silly, right? Like the voice is really perfect because it really does do a good job of showing off this quirky maniac instead of this like super serious monster. And that's really cool. It's a really fun personality. And I like the idea of Modok and Drahmin being quite fun in their personality. I'm being rather silly, but actually have a serious side to him. And you could even make like Drahmin have essentially two personalities, right? One with the mask on and one with the mask off. You know, like it doesn't have to just be, oh, once he takes it off, he's angry. Like he's supposed to like lose intelligence as well, seemingly. So there's a lot you can do, and there's a lot we already know about him. So it's a really good mix. And yeah, I just really like him. I didn't even mention his alt costume where he does have these ceremonial only wraps. We don't know much about it, but we know what they are. So that's already cool, and he has like and there's a lot of cool detail to him. So it's a really good pair of costumes for him. So yeah, he's very fun. Armageddon, he's in he is in Conquest. So when Taven enters Hell, the Netherrealm, Drahmin just says, "Welcome to Hell." His voice was changed to sound more serious. Not a fan personally, but yeah, that's a cool line for him. It's just a bit generic, you know. And an interesting detail once you beat him, and in Conquest, after Taven beats him, you get like a little paragraph of them to pawn instead of a cutscene, which I think is a valid way of, you know, they had time constraints, and I think that's a clever way of doing it instead of just having a cutscene of characters escaping constantly. I think that was a good way of handling it. But it mentions that like Icor was stripping from Drahmin, which is like Greek mythology, like blood of the gods and stuff. Which is interesting if like Oni here bleed Icor, which I don't know what that would look like because they bleed red in game, so I don't know. There could be some significance to that. You could do something with that detail. It's something that you know is pretty much irrelevant, but you could make it relevant. And that's the thing. Like a lot of these details I'm covering, they don't actually matter that much when you just look at Drahmin on a base level. But it just shows the depth and like how much you can expand upon and how much mystery that is, but also how much is already clarified for you to make him feel like a complete character who just happens to have some mysterious details around him, maybe some contrasting details from a couple things, but they all have stuff you can take from it and make sense of. So writing Drahmin, he's one of my favorite characters to write, and that usually determines like how much I like the characters. If I'm enjoying writing them, because I write MK Reborn. Yeah, he's such a fun character. I really enjoy him. And I love like thinking about like old Outworld, like very old Outworld, and the lore and the history of that, and what significance Drahmin might have to it. Because in terms of like old MK history, Outworld, like pre-Shao Kahn time, or at least the start of his reign, around that time period, that's actually relevant, you know? Like seeing that stuff's relevant. So if they ever want to do like a prequel thing before MK1, they shouldn't be doing the Great Kung Lao stuff, they should be doing that. They're not going to, but yeah. Again, just ideas. And it's not even related to Drahmin, but just look at the stuff in the background, like the big multi-headed monster thing with the tentacles, and he's got like Drahmin on his back. What a dope motherfucker. Very cool. And again, there's a Netherrealm creature. We don't know nothing about it, but it's very cool. And Netherrealm is also like another thing that's just full of mystery as a whole. So that's cool. You see like the bugs eating him, which ties in nicely to the fact that he gets like his flies that follow him around, which is a really nice touch. Because yeah, he's just a bunch of rotten flesh. It makes sense that flies are going to be drawn to him. And I always thought it was like flies from the Netherrealm, like the ones we see here. We see like little flies right here. So it's like, oh, you got like hell flies. Well, that fleshes out from a bit. But actually, canonically, they're flies from his arrival to Outworld. So that's cool. You can basically pick whichever. I mean, he doesn't need like a consistent amount. It could be a bit of both. Just always has flies following him, which makes him a very, stuff like that makes him very sympathetic. He's gone through 500 years of torture and shit like this. We don't know what wrongdoings he specifically did, but all we know is that, yeah, he was a warlord, so probably not a good dude. But yeah, he doesn't, like Drahmin himself, he doesn't really know of his past, like being an Oni, because your brain gets dumbed down, I guess, and yeah, he just doesn't know. He doesn't really know his past. So you could say, well, the Drahmin we see here is completely different to the Drahmin, to the man he used to be. His name probably wasn't even Drahmin. Again, it could have been Kun Lo, not Kung Lao. And yeah, it's just such interesting bits of details and stuff. And the mask is so cool. We see him in MKS comics. Him and Moloch are like around for one scene, and I will give them credit. They managed to capture like Drahmin's like silliness that Deception Conquest gave him, where he's like, "Hey, Scorpion, get over here," and that's a funny use of "get over here." That's actually funny. 1 in 500 get over here reference, and they finally got a funny one. So well done. And yeah, so it implies we're like buddies with Scorpion because I'm looking for Quan Chi, and that makes sense. They don't properly clarify in like the NRS time law, but you could explain that, and that's another idea for him. Because there's a lot of routes you can take the character of Drahmin and Moloch, because they're like a package deal, and the fact that Drahmin always has that established connection that you can expand upon, that's a great thing. Having character connections is arguably the most important thing, and Drahmin already has that, and he might have even more from his past, and he'll gain even more from whoever he associates himself with. Quan Chi, Shinnok, Shang Tsung, any of their enemies. But there's so many interesting character dynamics he could have with people. So yeah, and as Quan Chi kill him and Moloch, and he says, "Oh, I'll have 1,000 hands of Asashi's over one of you." Lame, very lame. You don't of course want to do more of him, but like pirates would have just forced Sean Kilson to have killed him off, because clearly liked them. He characterized them well for like the few panels they were in. So it's a big shame. I don't know why you had to kill him off. They could just be chilling in the Neverrealm. I don't know why they feel the need to just murder motherfuckers. It's so dumb. He's also in Snowblind for no reason. They just treat him like a regular Black Dragon goon. Why? Please tell me why. But anyway, just ignore that, because literally doesn't speak at all. He's not even mentioned. Oh, I can't wait for fucking Jeremy Adams to say, "Oh, so that wasn't Drahmin. I was just a lookalike. All only look the same." But yeah, Drahmin's cool, basically. Even if he hasn't been treated well lately, when he does occasionally appear. But yeah, I think Drahmin and Moloch, they should be big deals in story. Like once they get a chance to appear. They beat Scorpion up constantly. They are credible characters both on their own and especially together. Moloch and Drahmin as a duo is arguably one of the strongest things in the franchise. It's one of the strongest character pairings there is, right? Because that they were like the main threat behind the Deadly Alliance itself, and Deadly Alliance are pretty fucking strong together. So yeah, like they could beat basically any character on the Deadly Alliance roster if they were on their own. But again, as individuals, they're still credible threats, I think. So yeah, you're from like a power scaling wise, which again, your characters don't need to be strong. You can logically have characters be jobbers, as people want to call it. Like Kano, like that can add to his character, or mocap, or me, I don't know. Yeah, Drahmin is supposed to be quite a credible character. But yeah, he's also very fun. There's just so much to him. There's so much, and literally the only thing holding him back is the fact he's been underutilized. Like so many other 3D characters, need to be used more, and they need to be used right. They won't be used right when they return, if they return, and that's a shame. But yeah, what we do have of him is very interesting as a writer. It's very, very fun to write about all this. So yeah, he's a very, very good character. I don't know why people hate him. I cannot fathom it. I can at least understand like why people don't like certain 3D characters. Even if it's just because his design, insert character's design is bad, which half the time I don't agree with, because that's super subjective. I think the 3D character designs fit the characters themselves, so I don't think they're bad for the most part. I think there's like some lame ones, but like each 3D character looks the part, like in terms of newcomers. Returning characters, most of them look a lot better than they used to. So yeah, I just think Drahmin needs a little more love. I'm glad a lot of people like acknowledge him as like a really cool, underrated character. But yeah, I don't know why he's not up with like the Havocs and Kenshis. Because people like Kenshi and Havoc for superficial reasons. Kenshi because he's actually came back, and if you show up in a modern MK game, obviously people are gonna like the character. Also because it's a cool swordsman, and Havoc because cool chaos man. Like I like both those characters, but yeah, they're not amongst my favorite in terms of the 3D AR characters. But Drahmin is amongst them, and Drahmin is probably the coolest one. Like aesthetically, and law-wise, you have a lot to go by, so it's not just looks, and that's why he's so great, and that's why I think he's the perfect character, because he's a total package, and it's fantastic, and he needs to be used more. I don't know why he's not being used more. You could have Murloc and Drahmin be like a duo character or something, and you could get so creative with what they do. There is so much potential, like just in every category. There is so much potential for them all. For him and Murloc. Murloc obviously doesn't have as much depth, and that's fine. He doesn't need to. He essentially he's a supporting character for Drahmin in terms of story when you think about it, and that's totally fine. That's totally cool. Those two characters elevate each other, and I like the idea of them as a duo. If Murloc and Drahmin wasn't as a duo, then there would be less intrigue. But even then, Drahmin's still great. But yeah, you need them together, which Snowblind didn't understand. But yeah, I just like Drahmin, so that's what I wanted to ramble about today. I haven't even gone half an hour. I mean, I have done a 55-minute recording and another 5-minute reaction thing today, so yeah, because it's Monday and that's the only day I can record. I keep saying that, but that's still the case. I don't know what I'll do next week. If there are any suggestions, let me know, even though every time I ask for suggestions, I never get any, so I guess people just want me to do whatever, which, cool, or they don't care, but it's just also cool. I don't mind, really. But yeah, I had fun talking about Drahmin, and if you want some actually good Drahmin content, then read my fanfic, Mortal Kombat Reborn, or read CDR's fanfic, Mortal Kombat Requiem. But yeah, that is about it. I just want to support the 3D characters in whatever way, and I don't want to bullshit about it. I hadn't even really covered Drahmin's actual role in the Alliance. I can go for it briefly. Basically, Murloc and Drahmin are trying to get out of Netherrealm because Netherrealm is a bad place. Just because you're a demon or an Oni doesn't mean you want to be there. Being a monster doesn't automatically mean you want to just live in a monster land. So yeah, they meet Quan Chi. Quan Chi just manipulates him into finding this helping him find this ring or something, and they also protect him from Scorpion. They beat up Scorpion, presumably kill him a bunch of times, which is dope. And then Quan Chi abandons them, but they manage to made their way to Outward and actually get through the portal in time. And then they end up meeting Shang Tsung, and they go to like these woods, which they're hiding for a bit. But then they find Shang Tsung, and Shang Tsung's like, hey, if you want revenge on my country, I'll feed you moles in the meantime. But yeah, get ready to take action, because the Day Alliance was very tense. And yeah, like Moloch has his own lair, which is in the underground like area of Shang Tsung's palace, which is what the main menu Day Alliance seemingly is, since it has the same style, which includes a crypt area. Shang Tsung's palace is such a dope location. That might be my next topic, because that's like my favorite location in MK. It's so good. It's so much better than the island, quite frankly. So yeah. And then after Day Alliance, we don't really know specifically what happens with him. But since Drahmin goes back to Neverarm, and I'm guessing he was also with Murloc, like at the palace, like in underground, and because at the end, like Raiden fucking blows everything up in the Deception intro. I guess you can assume they died from that. We really don't know. So yeah, that's about their role, which is good. Like Day Alliance is a good introduction. So we just don't really have any proper follow up, and I don't know why actually, because none of Drahmin's moves are actually like reused for anyone else in Deception. They could have just chucked him onto the roster, at least the Unchained roster. I don't know why he was excluded. Like I really appreciate like the 3D like reusing stuff, and they were very clever about how to use stuff to ensure they managed to make the most out of like what they were developing, so they weren't just like hitting the reset button constantly. So you had something you'd enjoy, but there was stuff being added on, and enough being added on that was a worthy sequel, even if there were similarities in the same engine and whatnot. But yeah, there are just some baffling missing stuff that they could have just ported over. You can literally use an action replay code. The player's Drahmin in Deception. He doesn't work properly, but yeah, you can do that. So yeah, that's a summary. But yes, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.